Man, was it good to see a proper number 9 performance, even if it was only for 45 minutes. Chelsea traveled to Villa Park and emerged 3-1 winners. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. SCN! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is another Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Aston Villa. Before I get into all that, folks, we are still in the holiday season. It is Boxing Day today. My sponsors, Major League Socks, are still providing you with an opportunity to make great savings on their online store. If you enter the code Couch Critic in the online store, you will receive 20% off all purchases. And remember, folks, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so Chelsea traveled to Villa Park to play Aston Villa and emerged 3-1 winners. Goal scorers, own goal, Reece James, unfortunate, my friend. We also had a penalty spot from Jorginho. Then Lukaku comes in at half, scores to the match winner, only to be followed by another brace by Jorginho from the penalty spot. In this match review, we're going to be focusing on 3 things as we normally do. We're going to be looking at Chelsea's right side from defense right up to the attackers and assessing their play throughout this match. We're going to look at Romelu Lukaku and his return to form, his return to prominence in the Chelsea side. But I really do want to start with what I want to call risk versus reward, what Chelsea are sacrificing to get further men forward and whether or not it's paying off for them. Okay, so I should start first by saying hats off to Thomas Tuchel. I think this guy has done a fantastic job since coming into the Chelsea position as a manager, just assessing what the squad has, the strengths and weaknesses, and devising a game plan that is best suited for the talent that we have on the pitch. Having said that, he has been challenged immensely within the last 4 or 5 weeks, with Chelsea obviously having to deal with a rash of injuries and of course the COVID protocol, which is, hampered us even further. Throughout that whole process, any manager would be tested to their limits, and Thomas Tuchel's no different. As brilliant as he is, he has been trying to assemble a lineup that is, basically a patchwork job. Today we saw Pulisic playing the number 9, we saw Mason Mount on the right, and of course Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left. Very similar roles for them, but again, the application from what we need in those positions was completely different when you don't have an actual number 9 on the pitch. And I think that what we've been witnessing the last little while is Chelsea playing the exact same philosophy, the exact same tactics, and obviously expecting the same yield but not getting it, but at the same time still putting the same sort of aggression, pressing high up the pitch and trying to win the ball back. Without the end product. So when I say, risk versus reward, this is what I mean. I think Chelsea's putting a lot at risk, by pressing so many guys high up the pitch. And when they get into the final third, you're not really seeing the end product. You're not really seeing them really, put teams to the sword for the amount of pressure that they seem to be wanting to put on them. So, you get the high press, you get the turnover, you're in the final third, and all of our attackers, whether it be, our wing backs, or our three central attackers, they just haven't really found a way to really put teams to the sword and put the pressure that we're creating to good use. So you got to start asking yourself, is it worth it to even do that? We're basically leaving ourselves susceptible at the back to make ourselves more threatening in the attack. And in the process, everything's being thrown out of whack. Our transition game's looking terrible. We're getting guys caught out of position and putting, our 3 central defenders under immense amount of pressure. And, today was no different. Obviously, Trevoh Chalobah didn't have his best game. I'm sure you'd hear him say the same. He was put under an immense amount of pressure from Ollie Watkins all game and was challenged maybe like 3 or 4 times on that flank. And I think he lost every one of those duels. And, for the most part, a few of them almost led to goals or goal-scoring opportunities. And that's basically just due to the fact that Chelsea are pressing so high up the pitch. He's left on his own. There was no support for him on any area. And he was left basically on an island to try and deal with Ollie Watkins, who admittedly had the beating of him on the day. So, these are the things that I'm trying to weigh. Like, are Chelsea playing to their strengths at this point in time when they're playing a high press, when you don't have guys capable of utilizing the high press to break into space, to combine, play 1-2s off each other, get into the half spaces. All of these things were things that were hallmarks of Tuchel's game when we were at full strength. But with this sort of like secondary lineup that we're seeing right now, the same sorts, you still want the same yield. Obviously, when you're pressing high, you want to be able to produce turnovers and get into the teeth of the defense immediately. But when you can't do that, when you're not getting into the teeth of the defense and you're just recycling possession until you lose it, and then when you lose it, you put your defense under immense amount of pressure. I'm wondering whether it's worth it. Like, maybe we should drop the line back a little bit further and give our defenders a chance to at least find a foothold in the match before we start pressing up the pitch. I mean, for the majority of the first half, as much as Chelsea had the possession, I don't think they created one decent opportunity to score goals. So then you got to ask yourself, what is the point? If we're going to be pressing that high up the pitch and we're winning the ball, like, what is the point then if we can't actually utilize the possession to hurt teams? So I don't know. I was questioning that, and then at the flip side, obviously, because we were so high, it left us exposed at the back. And a lot of the good things that Aston Villa did in the first half came down to us turning over the ball and being caught out on the right flank. So going forward, I'd rather just see a situation where Thomas Tuchel recognizes that we don't necessarily have our A1 lineup out there that understands how how to hurt teams when we get into the final third, how to keep possession, recycle possession, and then utilize it to make incisions, getting behind the defense and hurt them. I would rather him just devise a system that's catered more to the players that we have on the pitch. Like, clearly, we didn't have a recognized striker, but we still played like we had one. And we had no cutting edge, we had no blunted attack, and as a result, we're just keeping possession and not really hurting teams. I'm not going to really question Thomas Tuchel too heavily, because I do think that he's a brilliant manager and a guy that understands what we're trying to do and definitely gives the right sort of instruction. It's just whether or not the players are taking it on, and whether or not it's actually yielding what we actually wanted to do. So again, risk versus reward. Is what we're risking enough for the payoff that we're getting right now? Currently, I'd say no, but that's just one half of football. Now, it's not very often I speak on Chelsea's right side as being the Achilles heel in a match, and this is a rarity, but for whatever reason today, Chelsea's right side in the first half in particular was diabolical, just not good at all. I'm talking from defender Trevor Chalobah, right wing back Reece James, Conte in the midfield, Mason Mount up top. That entire right side had a poor game as far as I'm concerned. And, a lot of the problems that we had in the first time was basically down to that right side not having a whole lot of understanding, communication, or even just like basically physical play, the ability to, win aerial duels, win ground duels. None of that was on display. And with the players that we have on the pitch on that particular side, you would think that would just be a foregone conclusion. The likes of Trevor Chalobah had a really, really rough game with Ollie Watkins in the first half, got beat a few times, lost his ground duels and whatnot, was outpaced a few times as well. N'Golo Kante, as much as he was, given that free roll to get forward and, try and cause havoc in the final third, I don't think that he was very good, and I really don't think that even his ability to win his duels was even on full display. We just lacked that real cutting edge that we normally get from him. The one that we saw, even in the dying minutes of that the Brentford game in the Cup, just was not there. And when you don't have an N'Golo Kante even at 70-80%, I think that the difference is stark, because you still see him like push forward, you still see him trying to win tackles and whatnot, but because he's not at 100%, he doesn't necessarily win all those tackles, and as a result, it leaves us exposed. And I feel like we were mightily exposed on the right flank today. Reece James pressing way up the pitch. I mean, positionally was so high and did not really transition back well enough to snuff out attacks. I think that Aston Villa recognized what Chelsea were doing on that right flank, our right flank, and basically allowed us to get deep. And then as soon as we turned it over, they looked to switch it to that flank because we were always caught out. Mason Mount, again, a guy that likes to get all around the pitch, is really busy, likes to close out and stuff like that. Again, I don't think that he did much in the first half either. Much in the game, to be honest with you. I thought that he was poor from 1 to 90. I don't know what the answer is there, because I really do think that he is best on the left. But I mean, Callum Hudson-Odoi is also on the left, and he's also better on the left. Pulisic's also better on the left. you get better application from the likes of Mason Mount when he plays on the right than the others, because he's the kind of guy that just likes to get on the pitch and play, and you give him an assignment, he usually executes it at a 7 out of 10 level. But for whatever reason today, played him on the right and he just looked like a fish out of water, was not in any way involved in any of the build-up in the final third. The opportunities that we did create, none of them seemed to be connective or with involving players on the same wavelength. And that's just something that you don't often see from that particular flank. It was just a weird game, and I'm sure Thomas Tuchel was thinking the same, because at the half he went in and made, that was not an injury substitution. He went in and made a tactical substitution to take off Chalobah and bring on, Romelu Lukaku, and move Pulisic to the right wing back and Reece James to, right-sided center back. And these are the types of things that, like, you look at your manager and you're like, okay, well, you're asking for a response from your players. What are they going to give you? Obviously, he moved Pulisic from the striker to the right wing back. He moved Mason Mount into the midfield again, where N'Golo Kante was after he got injured. And, we played with a midfield three, and you want to see a response from the players. And, for the most part, I think that the substitutions and the change in the dynamic of the football was good, but you're still not seeing the bright performances from the likes of Mason Mount and Reece James. Overall, I'd say that the application and the desire from that right flank was just not on display. And, it gives something to Tuchel going forward. Like, obviously, you can't continually run Reece James into the ground. And clearly, Azpilicueta is not necessarily up to snuff right now as far as giving us the same sort of endeavor on the right flank. But what are the solutions? Can Pulisic actually give us real minutes there? I really did think that when he came and played right wing back, he did play well for us. But is he offensively turned on to, attack, transition, and defend when it's called upon? I think today Tuchel pulled the right strings, made the right substitutions, and we were able to get the 3 points. But going forward, I think that might be an area where we might need to look at another wrinkle, see what else we can get on that side. Okay, so I've gotten through the bad points, the ugly points. I want to talk about the good now. And first and foremost, hats off to Romelu Lukaku, fighting through COVID. Obviously had symptoms, carrying them, and, was not able to start at the beginning of the match. Came in and looked a different player, just a different player in this Chelsea side. And, he's obviously taken on the criticism that has been levied towards him by the manager, by the supporters, the journalists and whatnot, taking it on and, just basically, silenced them in this game in particular. Like, everything that people were, chastising him for in his game, he basically just reversed it and showed them that he is capable. He's a capable striker. He's a capable, target man. He's capable, when running at defenses. He has the dribbling technique. He has the vision. He has the ability to pick passes. He understands what it was asked of him, and his movement, again, like, how many people have been saying, and even he commented on it in his post-match, where he's like, yeah, I've had to work on being less static or something to that effect, where, people have been saying that he, in the final third, he doesn't move. His movement's not been good. And I don't know. I beg to differ. In one of my earlier videos, I tried to highlight the fact that Lukaku likes the ball early, so he can make decisions on the ball, what best to do. When you limit his time on the ball, and you force him to do something that is, technical, or, he doesn't have all of his facilities, like his pace, his power, his technical ability at his disposal, then you limit him as a striker. When you run him down a corridor and you expect him to do something magical, it's probably not going to be the best outcome. But today, I think Chelsea as a club are starting to recognize when he wants the ball, and the recognition for when he wants it and where he wants it is starting to get a lot better. I mean, on a few occasions you can see that he pinned Tyrone Mings. He loves to shield with his arm and body him off and just use his physicality to get into great areas. And they're finally able to get into him on his good side, like, so he's able to turn him and get in behind. And a few occasions it led to Mings just fouling him because he just couldn't handle him. And Tyrone Mings is English international. Say what you want about him. This guy he's not a terrible defender. He's just not, he's just not world class. But, Lukaku made him look like a ragdoll today, And the one thing that I still think that we still need to work on when we're talking about Lukaku, because I know he likes the ball early into the channels. He's making runs, and I challenge you. I challenge anyone that thinks that Lukaku does not make runs into space or doesn't have to provide movement to watch the second half. Just focus on what he was doing in the second half, especially in the early parts of that second half where, he's peeling off of defenders and trying to get in behind and just not getting recognized. These are the areas where I think that Chelsea need to work on. Like the likes of Jorginho needs to get his head up and realize that, Lukaku is a mobile striker. He will get in behind if there's space to be had there, and he's just got to play that ball into him. There's at least 3 or 4 occasions where Lukaku was looking for the early ball, bent his run, and tried to get in behind, and like all 3 times, Chelsea failed to recognize that, he's making those runs. And, I think that is a work in progress, but, just the fact that we have it on tape now, seeing that Lukaku is making those runs, I mean, it's only a matter of time before Tuchel gets, to his midfielders and said, listen, here's that run that he's making again. Here's that run he's making again. Keep your head up and look for it, Have the, the intuition, get on that same wavelength where, he's making that motion to get in field. You got to give him the ball because, he can do a lot of damage when he gets the ball early, like I said before. And again, he came on and just changed the game for me, completely changed the game. Where in the first half we had no real offensive thrust. We had nothing, nobody holding up the ball. We were just basically recycling possession in and amongst our center backs and our central midfielders and not having any real attacking endeavor in the final third. As soon as Lukaku came on, all that changed. I mean, not only was he good at scoring, like the goal he scored was brilliant, the movement to get in and around Tyrone Mings and just head it back. Well, technique was incredible there. But also, he also has the vision to recognize when somebody's in a better position and to lay the ball off like he did for Kovacic, who then laid it off to Callum and he should have scored. Or when he played in Mason Mount and Mason Mount should have scored, Obviously, Alonso took the shot, but I thought Mason Mount had the opportunity to take it there and finish. But again, these are the types of things that I think Lukaku is capable of if you put him in the right positions to succeed. And, if today's any indication of what we're going to be seeing going forward, when we get the likes of Werner back, who also likes to connect with Lukaku, Havertz, who I still think needs to get on the same wavelength, understand what his runs are and how he likes his ball, his tendencies. But again, just getting a healthy squad back together, I think we will only benefit from having, Lukaku making these movements, Lukaku holding up the ball, Lukaku using his vision in the final third and his passing ability. He was my man of the match just because that 45 minutes was scintillating and he made all the difference, of course, winning the penalty for the third as well. Just using his strength, physicality, and pace to get into the final third, get into the box and draw a penalty. If we get this from Lukaku game in, game out, not just against Aston Villa, not just against, whoever, Malmo or whatever, if we get this consistently, I mean, it doesn't have to be always, to this effect, but if we get this same sort of intensity and energy and, just quality, I think that we're going to be fine as far as strikers go. Lukaku had a great game, my man of the match, and long may it continue. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea go to Villa Park and emerge 3-1 winners. Back to winning ways. Can you believe it, man? Man, long overdue. I mean, we've been just ravaged by injuries. We've been ravaged by the FA. We've been ravaged by COVID and whatnot. But, we just continue to move. We continue to, find our best football. Continue to just fight through all these difficult decisions that seem to be levied against us from match to match. Really, who can, I don't even know what the protocol is anymore. How is it that one team has 4 COVID cases and gets their matches suspended, but another team has 7 and game must go on? What is the criteria? It seems like they're just making it up as they go, and for whatever reason, Chelsea's the only one that's not really benefiting from having their match suspended. But we move, man. It just makes when we win that much sweeter, because we know that when we're winning these matches, we're not just competing against the opponents, we're competing against the FA, we're competing against the referees, we're competing against the world, really, it feels like. Always, you know, these are the types of situations that Jose used to thrive under, knowing that, you know, when we win, they hate to see us win. They hate it, you know, like, and, you know, it's us against them, like that mentality, you know. I feel like that's what's really being brought to roost right now with Thomas Tuchel. His post-match he was infuriated, man, you know, not only because, you know, player safety is being put at risk, just based on the fact that, like, obviously we lost 2 more again. Like, we lost Thiago Silva, which I don't think was very serious. I think that he may have caught it before, you know, he got seriously injured. But again, N'Golo Kanté is gone. You know, N'Golo Kanté hurt his knee again. And, you know, it's not so much that the FA are forcing Chelsea to, you know, play injured players. They're basically trying to put them in a position where they have to play young kids and, you know, actually sacrifice 3 points potentially in order to field a side. And, you know, no other side in the Premier League has had to do that, you know, outside of Leeds, who played that Arsenal game with a bunch of kids, you know. But it's just, you know, anyways, we move. Like I said, I don't really want to bellyache about that. You know, we're still in the title race. We still got some big matches to come. We got Brighton in the midweek, and then we got Liverpool on Sunday. So this is the time now where I feel these next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be telling for the title race. We can't hide from that anymore. You know, like it's do or die right now. We have to beat Brighton, we have to beat Liverpool, and we have to get something out of that Man City game as well. And yeah, I think that now that we're starting to see our strikers come back. We saw Lukaku come back today. We got Kovacic came in and changed the midfield for us again. You know, obviously Jorginho with the 2 pens. He's going to win the Golden Boot for Chelsea again this year. Just on pens again. Who knows, man? The way he's going, that's his 2nd brace this season, penalty brace this season. So, you know, if he keeps going at this pace, who knows where he'll finish up. But yeah, you know, we just got to keep going and keep trusting in Thomas Tuchel. I really do want to see him vary the tactics a little bit more to suit the personnel on the pitch. But, you know, other than that, I don't think that he's at fault for anything right now. We're just at the mercy of COVID. We're at the mercy of the injuries that we've kind of incurred over the last little while. And we're just trying to battle our way through it. And, you know, we're still treading water. We're still right there. It's just a matter of time before we can get back to full health and really start to race, at full capacity. But until then, guys, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chelsea. Peace.